in Project 3, we're going to see how we can use Excel as a database. And using Excel as a database should be used sparingly. There are very limited features within Excel that can be used as database functions. So if you're wanting a database application, you may want to look at Access or some other database application that's out there that can create queries, forms, reports for you. But again, Excel has a few features, and we're going to take a look at those in Project 3. The first one that we're going to look at is the sort feature, and you can sort data text within a worksheet by sorting. For example, the treatment, we could sort that in alphabetical order. We could sort the dates so that they show most recent first, or vice versa. You can sort the rate column in ascending order from smallest to highest, smallest to largest. And then the client number, same thing. You could sort that in ascending or descending order. So in Project 3, I've pulled up the file called APT Billing and have saved that already as they've requested in Project 3A. So the first thing that they want us to do in 3A is actually put in a formula that will calculate the total amount for each one of these clients. And I guess it's probably the total amount that's due. So we're going to essentially take the hours times the rate. And I'm going to start out the formula with an equal sign and click in the cell that represents the hours. Then I'm going to multiply the rate, and I'll press enter. And then that formula needs to be auto-filled down through the last record. Okay. And then from there, we're going to sort the data in the first column, which is the client number, in descending order. And to do that, you want to probably be in the column that you're sorting by, and also on the first record. You don't want to be outside of the data list area or the database area. A lot of terms are used interchangeably too. You might have a data list or a database. Sometimes they call it a table, but all those terms are used interchangeably to refer to a database area. The sort and filter button is again on the home tab in the editing group. The sort and filter button, if you click on that, there's an option in there that, depending on where you are, it'll pick up on how to sort. For example, if we're in the date field, notice that change from newest to oldest. If you go to a text field, sorting A to Z, numbers, say smallest to largest. So it's very intuitive as to where you're located or where your active cell is located. So for this one, we are in the client number field, and they want us to sort this again in descending order. So that would be largest to smallest. So click on that, and when you click on that first cell, it'll take the information that's associated with that first cell with it, and so it's sorted along with it as well. But you can see now that the numbers are in descending order. Next, we're going to take a look at the sort dialog box, and that allows you to perform a custom sort on your data list, and it also will determine, when you get into your sort dialog box, what appears in the dialog box is very intuitive. Again, depending on what you've selected is what will actually appear in the sort dialog box. And we're going to start out in Project 3B by, they actually want us to sort the rates in descending order. So these rates they want shown in descending order. So to do that, we need to select all of the data list, A3 through F29. And then we'll go into the sort and filter dialog box, which is the custom sort. And you notice it's picking up on the client name by default, but we want to change that to rate. And we're going to sort on the values that are in that column, and they want it in descending order, so largest to smallest. That's already set there, but if you needed it from lowest to highest, smallest to largest, you can come in here and change it from the drop down list. And from that, we'll go ahead and click OK, and now you'll be able to see the rates are in descending order. Okay, and then by just giving us a little bit more practice here, they're going to have us to sort the dates in ascending order. So again, we're going to select the area A3 through F29 and go back into the sort dialog box. This time we want it by date, and again just sorting on the values, and since we want it in ascending order, we want that from oldest to newest, smallest to largest. Okay, so now they're all in ascending order according to date. If you need to sort by more than one column, still do that in the custom sort dialog box. For example, if you had a data list or a database that had first and last names, street address, city, state, and zip as the titles at the top, you may want to first sort by name, and then if an individual has the same last name, then it'll look to the first name and put those in alphabetical order. So with our example, they want us to sort by date first, and they want that to be oldest to newest. And then they're going to go ahead and have us add a level. Second column, second sort is going to be the client number. So it's going to sort by date first, and then if there are any of the same date, then it'll look to client number. Okay, so same steps though. We need to select our data list A3 through F29. Go back into the sort dialog box. And we're going to first of all start out with date. It's probably already set up for us because we just did that in the previous exercise. So date, they do still want it left at oldest to newest. So from the oldest to newest date. And then to add the second level, go up to the top, add a level. We want to sort first by date, and then again if there's multiple dates, then we want it to look to the client number. And this time in the client number, they just want to leave it with the smallest to largest, so we'll leave that as is, and then we'll click OK. So now if you have multiple dates, which we do here, then it looks to the client number and it puts those in ascending order. And then notice here that the client number changes, but the date changes. So it goes to the next day, and within the day then it looks to the client number and puts those in ascending order. And then when the date changes to the 8th, then it within that area, then it'll put the client number in ascending order. So if you want to sort by just one field, you can click in that field, use your sort options that are in the drop down box. If you need to sort by more than one column, more than one field, then you do need to go to the sort dialog box. The next database function that we're going to look at is filtering. And essentially filtering is looking to display records that meet a specific criteria. So if you place a certain restriction on data within a worksheet, then it'll temporarily hide all the records that don't match that restriction. So it's a great way to kind of highlight and bring attention to certain records that meet a given criteria. For example, if I want to find all the records of the clients who were in for treatment on August 6th, then I could set up a filter that would search for all those. I know they're all together right now, but if they were scattered out throughout your data list, if you had 100 of them, then it would go through and filter out only those records that meet that criteria of August 6th. So we're going to take a look at the filter feature. We're going to start out, you want to make sure again that you're within the data list before you start clicking on any features or turning them on. So to use the filter feature, you do have to turn it on, and to get to that, again on the Home tab in the Editing group, we're going to go to Sort and Filter, and then you can turn it on right there. And there are other ways to turn it on through other tabs, but for now we'll just stick with the Sort and Filter button. When you turn on the filter, notice you get drop down arrows to the right of each of the field names, and if you look at those, you can't see that. And you probably can't see that either. Let's get to one where you can see. Each one of these have similar information in the drop-down list, but it does depend on what the field handles. For example, as we mentioned before, the date field, when you click on that, the sort, it knows what type of sort. So for the date field, it's going to say sort oldest to newest at the very top. for treatment, since it's text in that particular column, then it's going to sort A to Z. So it's very intuitive as to what information are in those drop-down boxes. Another example, if we go to the rate field, it'll list out all the options only one time, but it'll list out each option within the record. So if you've got, let's say, 7 clients who were charged $45, it's only going to show one of those options. 45 is only shown one time, even though you may have duplicate records of that same number. Same thing with the date. You can see that it's only listing out the dates one time, but it's showing you the options that are in that particular field. Treatment, there are only, 6 or 7 treatments that are possibilities. So very intuitive in each one of the drop-down boxes, but we are going to use those to apply our filters. And for the first filter, we want to look for all the clients whose numbers are 3102. So we'll click on the drop-down arrow. Trying to get you to see this, and I honestly don't think I can get it into the viewing area. But when you click on this drop-down arrow, there are a list, as I mentioned before, of all the client numbers. And what we'll want to do is click on, there's a select all option at the bottom of that list. It's actually at the top, but at the bottom of the menu. At the top of that list, there's a select all checkbox, and I'm just going to click on that to deselect all the checkboxes so that there are no check marks in the checkboxes. From there, and actually on page 136, if you're not already there, you can see what the drop-down list for the client field should look like. And you can see there in step 3B that I've clicked on the select all checkbox, and that removes all the check marks in those boxes. So again, we're looking for 3102, so I'm going to scroll down just a little bit to get to 3102 and just click on that to put a check mark in that checkbox, and then I'm going to click OK. And what that does then is it filters out everything that doesn't meet the 3102 criteria, and we're left with the 3102s. So there's 3 records. A couple of ways that you can see how, or indicate, it's an indicator that you're in the filtered mode, is on the left hand side, the row numbers are set in blue. Also, the filter now is not a drop-down arrow, but it has a filter button or filter symbol. So that's an indicator that you're in a filtered mode. Also on the status bar, lower left-hand corner, it should indicate how many records got filtered, okay, or how many remain. The rest of them are removed from display. So there's 3, and we can obviously see that and count that. Okay, now to get back the original list, a couple ways you can do that, but they're going to suggest that you go back to the filter button, and within that we're going to click on the select all box, and that brings back all the check marks, and then you can click OK. The next filter that we're going to look at is we're going to search for or filter out all the clients who will be receiving physical therapy. Okay, so again, we're going to go to the treatment field. I'm going to click on the drop down arrow. We're going to clear out all the check marks by clicking the select all box, and then we're going to click just on the physical therapy checkbox, and then I'll click OK. So that leaves us with 11 individuals, 11 clients who will have physical therapy treatment. And again, you can see blue numbers on the left tells you that you're looking at a filtered mode, and also the filter symbol on the treatment heading. Okay, then to get all those back, again, we'll go back to the treatment drop down arrow. I'm going to click on select all. That places all the check marks back in the check boxes, and then I'm going to click OK, and that brings back our original list. The next one we're going to look at is rate, and this is a little bit different in that we're going to filter out the top 2 highest rates, whatever those might be. Okay, and to do that, we're going to go into a custom filter. So I'm going to go to the rate. I'm going to lay my mouse on the number filters option, and within that you could go to custom filter, but they've got some options here that we can use as well. You'll notice there's a top 10 option. I'll go ahead and click on that. That brings up the top 10 auto filter dialog box. Notice top, the default is 10, but you can change that to 2 or whatever it is that we're looking for. And then we do want the top 2 items. However, there is an option to choose percent. So if you wanted to find the top 2% or the top 10% of rates, you could certainly do that. Also, I want to point out, instead of top, you can also choose bottom, which would show the lowest 2 items or the lowest 2%, or however you want to interpret that. Okay, so a lot of options in this dialog box. We'll go ahead and click OK. and it's going to show the top 6. Well, it's got 6 records, but it's top 2 items. Now, you might say, well, why don't I just have 2 records? But several of these records have the same amounts for them. So there's only 65 and 75 are the top 2 rates. All right, now to bring back the original list, again, we'll go back to the select all, and I'll click OK. And it gets us back to the original list. And then the final filter that we're going to look at, we want to look at the total field, and within that we're wanting to search out all of the clients whose totals are greater than $60. Okay, and again, this is a custom filter type situation, but we're going to go back to the total drop down list. Again, I'm going to lay my mouse on the number of filters option, and there is a quick way, choosing greater than. Notice that does take you to the custom auto filter box. Okay, I'll look at that just one more time. Number of filters. We could have gone here too, but when you go there, then you've got to put in the greater than here. So it's just as easy to grab it immediately. And that takes you to the custom auto filter, and it also places what your criteria is there. Not the criteria, but what the operator is. And then just type in 60. Now I also want to say something here. If you had a 60 as an option, which we do, we could select that, or you can just type in 60. And really, you don't need the dollar signs and the decimals. So, in fact, the book tells you to type it in 60. We're just going to choose from the list. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And that should display 6 records. All of these are above 60. Okay. Again, to bring them back, I'll go back to the filter icon, choose select all, and then click OK. And now we're back to our original list. And keep in mind, all those filtered modes, they could be printed, they could be copied to another worksheet, they could be copied into Word and write a person a note about them, whatever. Very useful in customizing and applying that filter to other situations. So, all right, I think that concludes Chapter 4. Again, review through the chapter summary at the end of the chapter that begins on page 138. The concepts check is on pages 140, 141. And then, as always, please take time to complete the assessments. Again, I just want to reinforce and encourage you to complete those assessments. I know you don't have to turn them in, points aren't assigned, but the more you practice these features, the more you'll learn and the more you'll retain how to do some of the steps within each of the features. So, and as always, if you have questions, feel free to email me or call me.